So, hi, Emma, and welcome to the show.
Hello, thank you for having me.
So, I'm really curious to know a little bit more about your business because you are a home healer, which I just think sounds fascinating. But first, I would love to know, as I always ask my guests, how did you become a whole home healer in the first place? I'm assuming that's not what you've always done.
No, it's not. So the home healing is me healing energy in homes. And I work remotely, so I don't go into homes, which I think is slightly unusual. Maybe a lot of people do go into homes and they do healing work, but I work remotely because I'm connecting to energy in the homes, and there's different types of energy that I might connect to. But this is not something I've done all my life, and it's not even something I was aware that I could do, as in connect to any kind of energy, until about, well, it was 10 years ago today, actually, this month, that I had a kind of a spiritual awakening, if you like. And I realized that there was something else out there that I could tap into. And that began the spiritual journey, if you like, the energy journey. And I discovered that I could connect to all sorts of energies, and it just evolved. I started going on courses, and it evolved that I then started healing energy in homes. And it started with clearing spirits and I suppose people might call them ghosts or psychic activity or whatever you want to call it. I found that I could clear this, and it made a huge difference to the people in the home, because suddenly the energy shifted and it felt brighter and lighter. And I thought, oh, okay, so this is something I can do. And then the business evolved from there.
Wonderful. And it's really something that's very unique to you, which is very special. So what were you doing for your career before you started your own business?
Yeah, so I've been working all my professional life, if you like, from after university in human resources. And I'd worked through several companies, worked my way up. I was latterly working for a telecoms company. I was an HR business manager for one of their sections of the company. And I loved it. I enjoyed it. And the only reason I stopped doing that, working in corporate, was because I had a family. So I did have a bit of a gap. And then I set up my own consultancy. So I was working, still keeping my hand in with my HR work, but as a consultant. Very sort of practical, very, I love that area of work, and I still do bits and pieces of HR, if I'm honest. I do enjoy it. But so it was very sort of corporate world, very, consultancy working. I then went to work with small businesses and support small businesses. But you can imagine when this the spiritual side of things came along, it was, oh, okay, that wasn't what I expected. And how does that fit in to where I'm at now? But I think it was so strong, and felt so right. That was the other thing about it. It just, yeah, this is absolutely right for me. This feels right. I feel like I've been here before, which that tends to feel like that, as my soul was a bit dormant, and then it got awoken. It's like, aha, now we know what we're doing, and it all makes sense. So I had to follow that new path. I think with the spiritual work, the home healing work, it's quite energetically demanding. So it can be quite draining. So I have to be in a really good space to do it. And I like to keep I like to do the HR work because it's very grounding. It's very practical, very grounding. So the two kind of balance each other out a little bit. But I'm definitely moving a lot more with my home healing business. Is my real business now. It's the one that I have built and am building, and having great successes. So that's where the energy is really going for me now.
Mm, I love that. And it's so wonderful to have such a strong, distinct calling as well, and to be able to follow that. So when you have an experience like that, well, there's two things that I'm curious to know. One is, I often talk about entrepreneurs, and one of the things that they struggle with in the early days is that shift from having that corporate mentality and corporate mindset where you have a job to do, you show up at the same time, and you are told this is what you do, this is what you believe in, this is the way we work, and then you have that complete freedom and you can do anything, but it's kind of a trap, isn't it? Because, oh, now you're free to do anything. So that equally can mean nothing or all the wrong things.
Yeah, what do you do?
Yeah, it can be very overwhelming, particularly at first as you find your feet and start to develop your new structure. And you've really had, from going from corporate to such a spiritual business, that must have been quite a transition. Did it feel that way, or because it was such a strong calling, did it just feel like the natural next step?
It felt very natural, and I think that's really important. And I think if that's one thing I would say to other women that was, starting a business, you've got to have something that you feel is right, that you're passionate about. And I discovered I had this gift, this skill, that I could connect to energy, and I could actually make a difference in someone else's home. And this was quite incredible to begin with, because that home could be next door, that home could be halfway around the world, and I was having an impact. And it was almost, when I was doing the work, I knew what I was doing, but it was almost still a surprise when someone said to me, you have just changed my life. The energy in my home is so different. The things that were going on in my home, the lights were going on and off, my daughter wasn't sleeping or whatever it might have been, and now she is. And now that children aren't scared, everything's calm and settled. You think, wow, that's amazing. And I think that's the case with any business where you do what you do and you have that impact, and someone says, because of you, I'm now able to do this, or you have changed my life in some way. That is so incredibly rewarding. And then, of course, that you're doing the right thing.
Yeah.
So I think it's really important to follow what feels right and where you feel really driven. And I think, because we're all given different gifts. I mean, it'd be awful if we had the same skill set, wouldn't it? I mean, it just wouldn't work. But we've all got something special and individual to us that we can give to others. And even if we do that in the entrepreneurial world, or we do it within a corporate world, it doesn't really matter. We've got something to give, and it's really connecting with that, and then working with that. So yes, it was different coming at the corporate. Is very much, you are obviously, you have a job, and you have lots of processes and guidelines as to how to do that, and then you come out and do it yourself. You can do what you want. You've got a free reign, which is wonderful. But I think the biggest thing, I think, HR for me was still helping people. And I was always, my skill set was always in the negotiation side of things, and disciplinaries and grievances and that sort of things, where I'm supporting people and working with people. So this is kind of like almost like an extension of that, in the sense that I'm still helping people. I'm just doing it in a different way. So I think that's really relevant to recognize what you can bring to the table, and really work with that and follow it through.
Yeah, and I think that takes some courage, particularly if you've been very much down one path, but then you have this feeling that you should be doing something else, or you have a passion that you want to follow. I think it's quite courageous to take that step in that direction. Was there anything that helped you in that respect?
I suppose the thing that really helped was when I discovered I had this connection. I actually found that quite a few people around me, quite a few of my friends, were already on that path. But we'd never spoken about it, because I was very much an atheist, and very much like, there's nothing out there, that's, just don't believe in anything, because I hadn't had the experience. So for me, I wasn't angry or upset with anybody that had that. I didn't condemn anyone for having those, that life, but I couldn't relate to it because I hadn't had the experience of it. That was all. So once of course I did have this experience, it was like, oh right, okay. And so I started talking about it, and there was loads of people. I think when it first happened, I thought that I was going to be a bit on my own, and I had to sort of kind of come to terms with this myself, because the people that were closest to me, family, really didn't like it. And they were worried that I think that I was joining some sort of cult, or I was being brainwashed or something. They were just being concerned because they cared. So that's fine. But so I was a bit kind of anxious about talking about it that openly. But then I found the more I spoke about it, the more people were completely understanding, said, yeah, you know, and most people I talk to will have had some experience at some point in their lives where they had a strange happening, or they felt they saw something, or they knew of a ghost or a spirit in a family home or something like that. So it's fine. I think, you know, it's really just about sort of talking about it and being open and accepting it. The big thing has been accepting it for me.
Yeah, I love that you shared that, because I do speak to people, particularly when they're starting out with their business and they have been open and told people of their ideas and their vision, and other people have said, "Are you crazy?" And they've very quickly learned not to tell anyone, just to quietly build their business on the side. And once it's ready and successful, then they can say, "Oh, this is what I'm doing." So it's wonderful that you had the opposite experience, that, okay, there were some people who really weren't with you on this new path, but then there were others who were there for you and supported you, and so you had those people behind you, which I think is a great experience.
Yeah, it was lucky, and I think a lot of that was because I spoke out. If I hadn't have spoken out, then I wouldn't have known those people were there. So there is something to be said about kind of owning who you are and what you want to do and what you want to achieve in your life, and when you do that, somehow the support comes to you.
Yeah. So as you've made quite a big shift from your corporate life into your spiritual life, have you found other changes in your life, and how have you managed that?
Other changes?
So that, like, the people around you, or just I think that you've gone from a very standard, accepted way of life to something that's little bit more unusual. And how was that accepted by others, and what did that mean for you?
Yeah, it's been an interesting journey, because I was mum, wife, part-time consultant, brought in a bit of money on the side, but didn't need to, was supported by my husband. And then I had this spiritual connection happen, and it completely threw me. And I suppose it was the closest people around to me, near me, my husband and my parents, found it quite difficult, because it was just so different. It was almost like I'd changed, and I hadn't changed. I just experienced something, and found I could do something else. Unfortunately, though, that not everyone could come on board with that. And my mum was fine. My dad, we just had a very frank conversation, said, "Dad, you're never going to get it. So just accept that I'm still a good person and I'm not doing anything bad. I'm actually helping people, and we'll just leave it at that." And unfortunately, my husband at the time couldn't cope with it at all. And we've actually parted ways, but only fairly recently, a couple of years ago. So that was really tough, because it was like, I want to follow my heart on the path, on this journey that I feel is absolutely right and I feel very passionate about, but it does mean letting go of 24 years of life that I've built up with my husband and my family and my home. And that was really difficult to let go of, and I still struggle with it now at times. I mean, it's a lot better than it was, I can assure you, but I do still really struggle with it, because it was just such an upheaval. I think when you set out on life at the beginning of your career, and life, it's you do your education, you get your career, you decide what job you're going to go into, you look for a partner, you want to have a family. And I put a lot of effort into that, and I had a very good life. We had everything that we'd wanted, with the home and the financial security, and we were a perfect family. And then this happens. So it was just a bit of a shock, really. And it just turns, well, so you never know what's around the corner, do you? You never know. And it did turn life upside down, but it also gave me that push to really focus on my business. So, when you've lost everything that and I've lost a lot of mutual friends as a result of it. When when that all sort of goes, that sort of 25 years goes behind you, you've got to look forward. And one of the benefits and of having this business and having, building it, was like, this is mine, this is my baby, and I can do what I want with it. I mean, it is literally, I can go as far as I want with this. And I've just put all my effort into that, and actually it's been a blessing to have something that I can really put my love and my life into, having had all that sort of behind me. I can now put into this, and I love my business because it's mine, and I'm doing great things with it, which is always a benefit as well, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I really admire your courage. As saying, any change takes courage, but such a big change takes a lot of it, and that faith in the process. And we're often believe that life happens to us, and then there's that camp where you have to believe that life happens for us, that it's taking us in a better direction. So I love that you've chosen that opinion and gone with it. So I think it's going to be exciting to see what happens next.
It's very exciting because you can feel I've already had great successes. One of the big things that happened to me in 2019 was I got featured in the Daily Mail, and it's a fantastic case study. And I worked with clearing the home of the journalist, and she was experiencing crazy things going on in her home, with like literally writing on the wall that was unexplainable, objects appearing and objects disappearing. It was really quite scary, and she was very much a skeptic, had no idea what was going on, and just thought, I'll try and look into this, and then ended up writing the story. And it had a huge impact on people. And I had so many people contact me, and the day the article came out, I had 1,500 hits on my website.
Wow.
So it really connected with people. And so it was that great, it was a lovely thing, because it really inspired me to know that I was doing a good thing. And because I worked through with this journalist and solved all the problems that she had. So even though she didn't understand what I was doing or what I'd done, she got the results and she got the benefits. So and of course then writing it up meant that there are lots of other people as well got to hear about it. And so I had all sorts of stories coming through. People said, oh my goodness, I've had this going on in the house, and it would be so lovely to get it fixed. And so it helped so many other people as a result. So it's very rewarding, obviously, when you get to that point where you're achieving things and helping and doing the right thing. You're doing the right thing.
Yeah, and it's great to know that they're because I was when you were talking about it, I was like, how would you know to call a home healer when you have just things that just don't feel right for one reason or another, or sometimes as it sounds like it's very obvious things aren't quite right. But yeah, to have that exposure is a great way. And I was talking in some interviews recently about the power of PR, and sometimes people discount how powerful it can be, and yet it's a great strategy to implement in your business. So is that the main way that people hear about you, is through PR?
No, my biggest is referrals. So I mean, I've cleared, I think I'm just over 500 homes now, and most of my business comes from referrals. The second is Google search, because I think because I got so many hits on my website, it pushed me up the Google ranking. And so when people search for negative energy or home healing or something like this, psychic activity, psychic attack, I come up. So that was just luck.
Yeah, that's great.
Mm.
So tell us a little bit more about home healing, because I'm sure people are very curious, because it's something I hadn't heard of before. And I know we had a little chat before we went live about what is it exactly, because I was like, do you heal people at home, or do you heal the home itself? And it's the home itself. And it's fascinating how on the different levels that it can be, this negative energy can appear.
Yeah, it's really interesting, because energy is all around us, that we are made of energy. Everything around us is made of energy. And I think we forget that sometimes. So it's like if we meet someone that is, we've all got people in our life that might be a bit negative. And when we meet with someone like that, we feel really drained and exhausted afterwards. Whereas if we meet with someone that's very positive and very upbeat, we always feel really good, don't we? So that is literally the power of energy. When someone, you know, when that energy is around someone, how it impacts you and how you can feel. So it's literally the difference between feeling like really low and drained to feeling really upbeat and light and positive. And so all of that is playing out around the home as well. And there's sort of several different reasons why that could be happening, but the areas that I focus on is where there are things that are actively draining energy in the home. And I do work with the people as well, so I'm looking at anything that's actively draining their energy as well. So they could be, just like there could be psychic activity within the home, it could be things on people as well. So I'm very much about removing all of that. So removing psychic activity is the first thing. Any psychic attack, that's the first thing I do. And then I start to work on earth stresses. So there's also all of this underneath the home that's going on. So things like geological faults or underground streams of water, this kind of thing. It can all be very draining. And if you're living directly above like a particular draining point, or sleeping, even more so sleeping above one of these points, it's going to really affect your sleep. So there's all sorts of things that are playing out. So that's the earth stresses, I call them, that I work on as well. And then finally there's electromagnetic frequencies, electromagnetic stresses, which of course we are getting much more of, because we've got the Wi-Fi's, we've got, I mean, we've always had TVs. I say always, in my lifetime, had TVs and got microwaves and things like this, and got the digital phones. Now we've got mobile phones, now we've got Wi-Fi, now we've got smart meters, and it goes on and on and on, doesn't it? All this you know, this technology, with all the radio waves coming out of it. And so that has another impact. And you know, there is actually societies that support people that are electrosensitive, so it's a big thing for some people. I mean, a really big thing. They really struggle. And one of the aspects of my work is then protecting. So again, because it's energy, I can change how it might affect you. So where it could be draining, I can neutralize it so it doesn't have the same impact and the same effect. And I do this by putting in protection. The key thing here is I work remotely, so I don't go into people's houses, and I've actually found that this is far better for me to connect. I can connect a lot better with a house. And I had this great example of when a client wanted me to go to the house, and I'd fortunately done the assessment before I went, and there was quite a lot playing out there. There's lots of sort of negative energies going on there. And I got to the house and it was absolutely beautiful, this house. And my brain was saying, there's nothing wrong with this house. You know, how can I possibly come here and say, oh, there's this wrong, you know, when it looks absolutely gorgeous, those marble floors and lovely, you know, spiral staircases going up them. And thankfully I had done the assessment, and what I found was that they had built that house on a site where they'd knocked down an old house, and I found the energy imprint of the old house was still there. So I could actually see it. So when I connected visually in my head, energetically, to that house, I saw a completely different structure. It was old, it was dark, it was red brick, and this house was bright and white and stunning. So it just shows you how, and I had to work with removing that old energy imprint of the old house. And then the difference in their house was huge. This was one of the ones where they were constantly calling the electrician to, you know, sort problems, and it wasn't electrician, it was psychic activity. And once I cleared that, the problem stopped.
Wow.
So it's really interesting. I've got endless stories of this sort of thing where, you know, what you think is happening and then what is actually happening energetically is just very different.
Yeah, fascinating. Gosh, I could talk about that all day. I'm curious about all your stories now. But I've loved hearing about your journey and how you coped with big changes and made that happen. Is there any advice that you'd like to give to other women out there who are building a business or perhaps going through a big change like you did, that we haven't perhaps touched on yet?
I'd love to share. I've got 3 tips I'd love to share, actually. And the first one, and we have mentioned it, we have talked about it, which is literally following your passion. So following your gift. So really understanding what it is that you've got to give to this world, because we've all got something. We've definitely all got something. We don't arrive with nothing. We arrive with something. And I think that's really important to share that, because when you connect with that and you share that, that's what you're meant to be doing, then life will flow so much better for you anyway. So that's the first thing. The second thing, we haven't talked about this, but I think it's really important, is understanding your why, and understanding why you are doing what you're doing. What is it that really is driving you? Because once you understand that, that will keep you motivated, and that will keep you going when times get tough, because it is tough having your own business, working on your own. It's definitely tough. And then my final thing is never give up. Even when it feels like it's just such a struggle, but if you've done your following your passion, you know why you're doing it, then just keep going, just keep going. And that would be my top 3 things.
Yeah, I love that advice. And I think very often when we feel that we're up against a brick wall, we soon realize it's not just brick wall, it's just the start of the next learning curve. And that start point is very steep. So it feels like we're facing against a brick wall, but actually it's just that next hill to climb. And then it's just going to take us to that next level and the next level. And it's never stops. As you it's like with kids when they grow up, I've got it sussed now, I know how to look after them, and then they grow up and they've got a whole new level of demands. It's the same with your business. As soon as you get ready with your business and you get it all sorted, and it's bringing in a nice income, you're working with your ideal clients, but then you need support so that you can grow the next stage. But then you have to take on staff, and you have to learn leadership, and you have to take all of your skills to that next level. And it's, yeah, every stage it can be overwhelming sometimes, but it's great advice to tap into your why, remind yourself why you're doing this, and then keep on going.
Yeah, keep going, don't ever give up.
Wonderful. Emma, thank you so much. So if anyone would like to know more about your home healing, if they have any mysterious feelings in their home that they'd like to get some advice on, how can they find you?
Yeah, the best way is to go to my website. So it's www.homehealer.co.uk. So homehealer.co.uk. And everything's on there in terms of what the business is about, how to contact me. I also offer free assessments of homes, and the link is on there to apply for a free assessment of the energy in your home as well.
Fantastic. And that's a nice, easy name to remember as well.
Good.
Great. Well, Emma, thank you again for all the advice you've shared and for being so open about what it's been like in your journey. I'm sure lots of people are finding would have really related to that, and it's helped them massively. So
I hope so.
So I'll put all of your links on the page underneath as well, so people can click through there. But if you're out and about, homehealer.co.uk.
Thank you.
Thank you.